Hello, and welcome to Cloud Academy's course on Identity Federation on AWS. This course is designed to provide you the knowledge to understand what is Identity Federation, what are the features and functions of Identity Federation, how you can federate your login to the AWS console, how to centrally manage AWS console access with cross-account roles and directory services. This is not an introductory level course. This is an advanced topic for a specific purpose that should be taken after you are familiar with most of the features at AWS and have a good understanding of AWS Identity and Access Management. Before we get too far along, let me tell you a little bit about myself. My name is Tom Lynch, and I will be your instructor for this course. I've been in the IT industry for over 30 years. I first began working in virtualized environments in 1996, but that was an IBM mainframe, so it was similar but different. I have been an active AWS consultant since late 2012 and earned my Solution Architect Associate in March of 2013, followed by my AWS Solution Architect Professional in November of 2015. The topics covered in this course are: what is Identity Federation as it relates to AWS console access, types of federation available to AWS, how to set up and use cross-account roles, how to use simple AD for IAM authorization with cross-account roles, concepts of SAML, how SAML could be used for AWS console authorization, concepts of web federation, demo on cross-account roles for federation, demo on simple AD for AWS authorization. I will distinguish two types of identity federation that AWS provides: identity federation to your organization's identity store and identity federation to OpenID providers. I will discuss how to federate OpenID providers to an AWS account. I will first cover cross-account roles. This is a technique for one AWS account to access or manage another account's resources with authentication being processed in the first AWS account. I will discuss how to use Microsoft Active Directory as your central point for authentication with cross-account roles to a second AWS account. I will cover the concepts of SAML and how SAML can be used for authentication to the AWS console. And finally, I will discuss the use of web federation in a broader sense for authentication to your own applications. I will demonstrate how to set up cross-account roles between two AWS accounts using basic IAM authentication. And next and finally, I will show how to use AWS Simple AD as a central authentication source for continued console access with cross-account roles to grant access to the second AWS account. Since this is a more advanced course and a topic I'm suggesting, a few prerequisites should be completed prior to taking this course. You should review the identity and access management. Identity federation on AWS is directly tied to IAM roles and IAM policy. It will be helpful to have an understanding of enterprise identity technologies such as Active Directory, LDAP, and some open identity providers such as Google, Facebook, Twitter, or Amazon. A good learning path that is helpful in this course is the Solution Architect Associate certification for AWS here at Cloud Academy. Now back to the course, and what is Identity Federation? Identity Federation is a method that uses an existing authentication solution to grant access and authorization to another solution without recreating user IDs and having multiple passwords to remember. There are several types of authentication and several technologies that can be used to authenticate between independent solutions with a common and centralized authority source. Identity Federation comes in many forms, but the objective and functions is pretty much the same. Use a central directory to maintain user IDs and passwords that can grant access to an independent solution without having to have multiple user stores. The most common purpose for an identity federation is to grant or revoke user access from a single location to multiple services. This way, a user can come and go from your organization. You do not have to administer the user accounts and authorization in every single system that you have in your enterprise. AWS is simply an extension of your enterprise and should be treated as such so that you can control access to your new infrastructure services at AWS from a single federated source. The concept of identity federation is common, and there are several underlying technologies that can be used to achieve this authorization from a single central location. Now, what identity federation enables is single sign-on, also commonly referred to as SSO. This means that user management and user authentication would happen against a single identity store, and the authentication identity will be determined the level of access the identity will have. So with SSO, you can use standard tools to create and manage user IDs. Examples include AWS Simple AD, Microsoft Active Directory, and LDAP, a few of the most common directories. Then on top of these directories are tools and applications that can create SAML, Security Assertion Markup Language, to extend Active Directory to the web, in effect, provide a layer between the AD server and the internet. The layer enables SAML 2.0, the open standard for authentication between services, and can provide a broker between multiple services in a single common authentication source. Now this part is very important, and this is a key takeaway from this course. AWS Identity Federation connects external users to AWS via the IAM role that is set up to permit access. From this role, the user can access what is permitted by that role at AWS. The external identity provider authenticates the user. The AWS account IAM roles authorizes the user to perform operations against the AWS account's resources. There are two distinct phases: authentication with the SSO source and authorization provided by the AWS Identity Access Management role assigned to that user. Now that we have a base understanding of identity federation and SSO, we can explore how to use this concept within AWS. The first concept will be cross-account roles, and then we will move into the use of central directories to authenticate users to AWS. Now let's dive into cross-account trusts and roles. With cross-account trusts, you're allowing AWS IAM users from one account to access another AWS account. The user from the first account is permitted to perform functions in the second account based on an IAM role assigned to that user. Seems simple enough, but in practice it takes a careful setup to get just right. Typically, there is one account that is central, and that is where IAM users are created. I'll call this the trusting account. This trusting account serves as an authentication source. IAM now becomes the central directory where user IDs are maintained. Then users are given roles that permit access to the other account. Let's call this the trusted account. It is this role in the trusted account that authorizes access to the services that are granted to users in the trusted account. A basic three-step process is all that is needed to establish this relationship between the trusted and trusting accounts. First, create the role in the trusting account. 2, grant access to this role in the trusting account. And 3, test, test, test. I want to give you a cross-account organization power tip here real quick. One account is the trusting account. The other accounts are the trusted account. In your trusting account, you should contact AWS support and set all the resources to 0 so that nothing can be created in this account except for IAM users. This way, you know the trusting account is just that, trusting, and the other accounts are the trusted accounts where you do work. Now let's get into a little cross-account details. In this scenario, we have an external account that has a list of users within its IAM users. The external users require access to a local account. The local account will set up a cross-account role specifically for the external account. External users that assume this role will have access prescribed in the policy attached to this role. Only external accounts can manage which of its external IAM users can use this cross-account role. The local account defines which external accounts can use this cross-account role. A common use case for this cross-account role is a managed service providers, i.e. consulting companies that help you manage your local accounts. You trust their consultants to come in and perform work on your AWS resources, such as starting and stopping EC2, putting data in an S3 bucket, and uploading billing data to their account, etc. Another use case is where your organization manages multiple AWS accounts for different tasks: development, test, stage, and production for your application. A single user may take over multiple functions during the course of his or her day and access resources in different accounts. With cross-account access, he or she can instantly switch to a different account without signing in again. Amazon Simple AD is a service offering that provides a directory as a platform as a service, or PaaS, as it is often referred to. This is another way to federate login to AWS Console. The offering is based on LDAP and is compatible with Microsoft Active Directory. This service provides basic directory and relieves you from having to manage the 2 servers that are provided in a highly available setup. The service does require a VPC with 2 subnets that can reach the internet. The subnets and the servers do not need to be publicly accessible or have public IPs, but the servers do need to have the ability to reach the internet through a NAT gateway of some type. There are 2 sizes of Simple AD: small, 2,000 objects or less, or large, 20,000 objects or less. Once you have a Simple AD running, you can then connect EC2 resources to the service. The service supports both Linux and Windows instances. You can join the instances to the server at launch, provided they are Windows servers, or by accessing the servers after launch and then joining the instances to the Simple AD domain for both Windows and Linux servers. Simple AD supports the use of Microsoft Active Directory tools, and the most supported method for administering this is from a Windows 2012 instance with the AD Remote Admin feature installed. Now remember, this is a PaaS offering supporting the creating of users and groups to help the ease of administration, as well as the organizational units, or OUs as it's commonly known, to keep the directory service organized. This service can be used by the console for federated login authentication and can be used by EC2 instances running Windows or Linux as a central authentication source for the applications running on those servers, or simply for logging into those servers. Now, there are limitations to Simple AD, and a few features are not supported. Trust relations, Active Directory Admin Center, not every PowerShell API command is supported, and the AD recycle bin, and group managed service accounts, and schema extensions for POSIX, for example, and Microsoft applications. They're just simply features that are not supported, because remember, this is an LDAP server with some extensions on it. Now remember also, since this is a pass offering, Simple AD does not permit access to the underlying servers at an admin level. It is up to you to administer the directory, but not the instances or the operating system that provides the platform that the service runs on. Security Assertion Markup Language, also known as SAML. It is an XML-based open standard data format for exchanging authentication and authorization between parties. SAML uses a central directory service that is accessed by the user. The user provides credentials, typically a user ID and password, and then is redirected back to the requested site and granted the level of access the requested site permits. SAML AWS console flow. The most important part of this exchange is in steps 1 to 3. A user identity is authenticated against the on-premise Active Directory via ADFS, for example. In step 4, the user access to the console sign-in page will call the assume role with SAML with the authenticated identity, and finally the user is redirected to the AWS services page in step 5. This typically happens very quickly and is always faster than the user typing in their user ID and password over and over again. Note, AWS has many third-party partners that have developed solutions to make SAML-based SSO relatively painless. There is a short list of the third-party vendors listed here in this URL, which is also included in the course outline and transcript. So feel free to look at this list and get a better feel for the number of third-party offerings that Amazon offers to integrate with SAML. Web Federation or OpenID Authentication. Web Federation or OpenID Connect grants access of AWS resources to your global web users, such as Facebook or Google or Amazon or LinkedIn, just to name a few. A common scenario is a developer who wants to offload a major headache of account management, but still provide authenticated access to an AWS resource. Remember, account management is hard and takes a lot of resources, especially when something goes wrong. Traditional method of storing credentials and store hash passwords is risky without a good security and operations team, which is why people are offloading this task to Google and Facebook and Amazon and others, just to name a few. Web Federation solves this problem by linking OpenID Connect compatible identity providers to your AWS resources. When a user logs in with a compatible identity provider, your app will make a call to the assume role with web identity to get a set of temporary credentials. These credentials are unique to each call and expire after a set amount of time. Since you are presenting access of your AWS resources to a global audience, you should take care to lock down your role. This is not for accessing the console. This is for accessing resources and applications that are built within AWS. Now let's go over the OpenID flow. This is a simplified example of how a user would interact with OpenID solution to gain authorized access to a website. Step A, user navigates to a site and selects an OpenID source, Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, so on. B, the site returns a redirect to the OpenID provider selected. And then step C, a series of tokens are passed. Authentication is verified with the OpenID provider, granting access to the website application. In this section, I will show you how to set up both cross-account roles using IAM User IDs and using Simple AD for authentication with cross-account roles. Now let's get into a few details for setting up the cross-account roles. You will need two accounts, a trusted account and a trusting account. IAM users in the trusted account, and IAM policy that is attached to a role in the trusting account. For this demo, the AWS account called Cloud Academy 2 is the trusted account. This is where you will log in and are authenticated. The trusting account is my CC Force account where I run servers and resources for development and testing. I want to point out this early on that your cross-account setup is saved in the browser and in the browser cookies, I believe. I haven't been able to find any evidence to the sort. I just know if you remove your cookies that relate to AWS, you will lose your cross-account settings. So remember this as you switch between browsers and different computers, that your cross-account role will not come with you. Now let's get into the actual demo. For this demo, I'm already signed into both accounts, the trusting account CC Force on the left and the trusted account Cloud Academy 2 on the right. For step one, we need to use the trusting account CC Force. First thing I need to do is navigate to the IAM service, and I need to create a policy. So I'll click here on policies, I'll click create a policy. You could use an existing AWS managed policy, you could generate a policy, or you can just simply create your own. For this demo, I'm just going to say create our own. We need to give the policy a name, CA cross account demo. Description is always a good idea. So this is EC2 describe access to US East 1. Then we need to create a policy. Like I said, you can create any policy you want. You can cut and paste a policy in that you already have. You can use a managed policy with some modifications. I've got a policy ready to go. It's in the transcript notes. So I'm just going to cut and paste it here real quick. This is just a simple EC2 describe instance. Policy allows you to describe EC2 instances, load balancers, some CloudWatch metrics, some auto scaling. Interestingly, I added this deny statement. We'll get into that in a minute. And basically now you can create a policy. This creates a policy. Now you need to create a role. So click create roles over here, click create new role. Make sure you click role for cross-account access and then click select. Next step is to enter the trusted account number. I just happen to know my number, so I'm just going to quickly cut and paste that in there. Jump to the next step. Now I want to attach a policy. We just made our own policy for this, so I'm going to filter the list by saying customer managed and click the CA cross account demo role policy that we just created. Click the next step. We need to give it a role name. Again, CA cross account demo, and give it a description, Cloud Academy cross account role, and click create role. After this role is created, you want to look at the summary just to take a peek at it. So click this role, click the role, and now you've got some useful information here. This link right here is what the users are going to use to access this cross-account role. Now the next step, as you remember, is to do the work in the trusted account. So let's go over here to the trusted account. Now that we're already logged in, we're going to just copy this link. Go over here to the trusted account. Easier just to open a new tab. Hit Control V, paste that in there. And look at that. We've got a switch role command. It gives us our account name, which is what we've given the alias in IAM, the role, and we can display name this anything we want. CC Force is fine. I usually change the colors. You can change it from the red to the orange, something that means something to you. And click Switch Role. Now you see up here, we've got a little variance up here. Well, that tells us we're in this other account role. Now, if we go to IAM, we're going to get an error. We can't see anything. Back to the home screen. Type in EC2. Press enter. We can see if there's any instances in the Northern Virginia region. There's nothing there. So if we go back over here to the trusting account, go to services, go to EC2, we should see the same thing. Now, and we do a real quick launch instance. Doesn't really matter. We're not going to connect to it anyways. Just going to go real quick here and launch an instance. All these default parameters are fine. Doesn't really matter. Just review and launch. And launch. And we don't even need a key pair because we're not even going to log into it. The point is to show you that we're going to see a change. Here we go. We got an instance launching. If we go back here to view instances, see it's in a pending state. Come back over here to the cross account, trusted account, refresh the screen. We see the same exact thing. So now we've got both accounts. We can see it both, and we can just be logged into our one account and see the other account. Now, let's go back over to the trusting account. Let's switch regions, for example. We'll go to Ohio here, US East 2. I'll launch another instance. Again, just a simple test instance. We're not even going to connect to it. Do a quick review and launch. Launch. Again, we don't need a key pair. I'm not going to log into it. We're going to view instances. What you look at? We're launching an instance now in the Ohio region, US East 2B. We come over here to our trusted account, and I switch to the Ohio region. I get this old warning because it's the first time going to it. An error fetching instance data. You are not authorized to perform this operation. Remember, from our IAM policy, we denied access to the US East 2 region. So now you can see that you can't see any of the data in US East 2. And if you want to trust somebody to come in and look at your account, you can limit them to a particular region if you want. If that's how you're configured, if that's helpful, always trying to keep the least privilege model intact. All right, that's pretty much it for cross-account roles. Now you can go off and create some cross-account roles of your own and manage your multiple AWS accounts from a single account. In this second demonstration, I'm going to expand upon the first by using simple AD to authenticate the user with the console access first, then using a cross-account role, view the EC2 instance status in the CC Force trusting account. First, I set up simple AD in the Cloud Academy 2 trusted account. I included a CloudFormation template link in the slide that will set up a designated VPC with 2 public subnets and 2 private subnets. The CloudFormation template link is in the transcripts. This template can be accessed to create a VPC and set up simple AD if you want to try this on your own account. But this is only part of it, and actually the easy part. In this demo, I am not going to create any users other than the administrator user that is created when the simple AD is created. I'm going to set up a few more items in simple AD directory to enable console federation. Now let's jump into the demo. Now for this demo, I'm started in the Cloud Academy 2 trusted account. From the directory services, I'm selecting the simple AD directory that was built for this demo. So let's type in directory, services, and you'll see here this is a directory that I created just for this demo. We're going to click on this directory, and we'll see a nice summary page of what was created. The first thing I need to do is set up an access URL. For this demo, I'm going to call it CA Fed Demo 2. And I'm going to create the access URL and press continue there. Now, we need to create access for the AWS Management Console. If you look down here in AWS Apps and Services, you'll see the AWS Management Console. We're going to enable access. Sometimes this occurs and unexpected errors occurred. Please try again. We'll just refresh the screen and see if it worked. Actually, it did enable. Just wanted to let you see that. It's happened a number of times. Can be a timeout between clicking the link and Amazon activating it. Don't fret it too much. Just click refresh on your browser and you'll be good to go. Now, if we click the link and we click continue, it'll take us over here to IAM roles. We don't have any roles created yet, so we need to create a role. So let's click here to create a role, which will launch the IAM roles screen. We'll create a new role. We want to pick this one here, AWS Directory Services. We're going to click select. For this demo, we're just going to grab the administrator access and use that as a managed role. You could use any of these managed roles, or if you had a predefined role and policy already created, you could use that. I'm going to click next. We need to give this role a name, so we're going to call it Federation Login, and we're going to click create role. Now we have a role created. Now let's go back to the directory tab and refresh the screen again one more time. Directory tab, and we'll refresh this, and we'll see we have a Federation role. So if we click that, it takes us to the next screen. In this assigned users and groups, we need to add a user or group. So let's click add. This is actually a link to our simple AD. As you can see here, Cloud Academy local domain. We'll just type in A for administrator and it'll bring it right up. We'll click on that and now it's linked in, and we'll click add. And now our administrator user is linked to having federated login access. So let's go back here to directories, the simple AD link. And if we click this link here, ca-fed-demo2.awsapps.com/console, we're going to get a login screen. We're going to key in administrator. We'll type in the password. And now we're logged on with the federated login account. You can look up here and you can see it changed. But watch this. If we go back to the IAM role, we need to reload it because we're now logged in with the federated account. Need to go over here to directory services, same thing. And we're now logged in as the federated IAM user. Now, this is only part of our objective here in this demo. We want to cross-account role with this federated account as well. And we need to do that from the CC Force trusting account. So let's switch over to the CC Force trusting account. Now from this account, we need to go get the role that we used in IAM to set up the cross-account role and add it to the federated user login screen. So the easiest way to do that again is IAM, roles, go to our role that we created, copy this link, Control-C. We want to switch back over to our other account here. We're already logged in. Let's hit a new tab, paste in that link. It's going to bring this back up, CC Force Dev Test, cross-account demo, CC Force. Let's make it blue this time. Switch role. It's going to take it a minute to load. You see the CC Force up here just like before. We go to EC2 service. We're in Ohio. We're not authorized to see this region. Switch over to Virginia, US East 1. Running instance, click on that. So that we can see the instance. Now remember, we set up this role and we shouldn't be able to stop or terminate this instance. We try to stop it, we get an error. Remember, we only gave ourselves the scribe. Okay. That pretty much completes this demo for using simple AD to federate yourself to the AWS console, and then you can still switch accounts and do cross-account roles even though you logged in with a federated user. Now, a cross-account role security tip. As you may have noticed, anyone in the trusted account could use the link to gain access to the trusting account. Now, this could make the trusting account admins a bit nervous. So a way to control who can access the trusting account is to edit the trust relationship that is set in the trusting account. You do this by updating the principal element within the ARN of the user or users you want to allow access. Now let's do this in the trusting account. Okay, from the CC Force trusting account, we need to navigate over to IAM. We need to select the role that we used in the demo so that we can modify the trust relationship. Let's click on the role, click on trust relationship, edit trust relationship. All we need to do is change this from ARN AWS IAM account number root to user/Tom, and then update the trust policy. This just gave it the ARN for just my ID in the other account. Now let's switch over to the trusted account and create the cross account role again. Now just click here on the username, click switch role, click switch role again, type in the console alias, CC Force dev test, CA_ cross account demo, CC Force, and click switch role. And now we've gotten access to the cross account role based on just this user ID, Tom. Now you're saying this is the same as the last role. How do we verify that this is exactly the way we want? We switch back over to the trusted account, or the trusting account. We edit this relationship and we put something different in here. Let's change the user from Tom to Bob and update the trust policy. Now we need to switch back over to the trusted account. And let's check to see if we can get through on the switched role. We still have it CC Force here, and when we click on it, now you see we have an error that tells us that only Bob can get in now, not Tom. We're having a difficulty getting in. To confirm this, let's switch back over to the trusting account, edit this relationship, change Bob back to Tom, update the policy, switch back over to the trusted account, click switch role, and we have restored access again. So as you can see, you can get security a little bit tighter on cross-account roles just to make sure that only the certain people that you want to allow to use cross-account roles can, and you can use a single federated IAM user account to log in all your users. That concludes the demo. Hope this was helpful and you've gotten something useful out of this course. Now let's review what we just went over on Identity Federation on AWS. In conclusion, there are several ways to authenticate with AWS. AWS IAM user IDs, AWS cross-account roles based on IAM user IDs, directory authentication using simple AD with or without cross-account roles, and SAML-based authentication. And there is Web Federation that is used to access AWS resources with OpenID, but not to gain access to the AWS console. Now here's a summary chart that can help you remember which services to use for which functions. I'm not going to bore you with reading this chart, but you may want to save this for later reference. And before I forget, I'd like to remind you to please provide us with your feedback so I can improve this course and make it more useful to you to help you learn what you need to know about Amazon Identity Federation and to be more successful with Amazon's web services.